AITA for canceling on our family cruise? So, my parents wanted to go on a cruise for the holidays. They invited me, 25F, my boyfriend, 27M, my brother, 28M, and his girlfriend, 26F. My brother, let's call him James, has always been the golden child. Some backstory: back in high school, when James was discovered to be selling pills, he was just going through a phase. Meanwhile, when I got caught smoking weed, my parents threatened to kick me out. James lost his scholarship and dropped out of college 3 different times, but he's still perfect. I graduated a semester late and I didn't try hard enough. James still lives in the state where he is attending college, and I live in my home state near my parents. He doesn't work, he's not currently in school. My parents buy him flights all the time to come visit, but don't buy me a flight to go see him or go anywhere else. My parents send him money for rent and life necessities. He bought a $2,000 dog recently with that money. When I got my first big job at age 22, my parents immediately kicked me off their insurance since I had the option of benefits. James was on their insurance until he turned 26. Last year, I got laid off and moved back in with my parents to save money. When I got my new job, my parents told me I needed to pay $10,000 in back rent, which was never discussed previously. I did finish paying it off and recently moved in with my boyfriend. This has been a pattern my whole life. James gets everything handed to him and I have to work my ass off. So, now to the cruise. My parents said they wanted to do this, and bought tickets for themselves, James, and his girlfriend. They told me to get my own ticket since I have a well-paying job. I was super upset, and told them it wasn't fair that I was the only one who had to buy their own ticket. My boyfriend couldn't come due to holiday plans with his own family. My parents said I was acting spoiled and that green wasn't a good look on me. I am so tired of hearing that phrase at this point. They said it's not like I had to get a nice room since we'd be outside it the majority of the time anyway, which is true, but then why get James a nice room? I decided I had enough and I wasn't going. But here's where I may be the asshole. I let them continue thinking I was for months. Then, on the night before they left, they said to get to their house by 8 a.m. so we could start the drive to the port. At 8:30 that day, they started messaging me asking where I was. I texted them, since you didn't want to put the effort in to have me join you, I will be attending my boyfriend's Thanksgiving instead. Have a nice trip with your favorite child. Then I muted the chat. I talked to some friends about this, and some said it was petty of me to cancel with no warning, and others said I should have sucked it up and gone since I would have had fun when I got there. They've been on the cruise for a couple days now, and I'm starting to regret how I handled things. Yeah, I probably would have had fun, and it's not like I couldn't afford the ticket. I also would have handled the delivery better. But at the same time, I'm so sick of them treating me like this. Comment. YTA tradition is tradition, especially in your family that has telenovela level drama. Yes. This is your family. No family is perfect. Parents mess up. You miss them after they die. You were childish. You have to stop thinking of the past. Sure, James feels like the prodigal son. They still love you. At least cancel before the morning of departure. How do they feel now? You blocked them. They're probably upset with you while trying to enjoy their cruise. Was it truly worth it to act this way? I agree in principle you shouldn't have to pay your own way, but that's their call. Canceling or having the boyfriend excuse was fine at some point, but not that late. You tried to sabotage them. You should go see them when they return and apologize. Life isn't fair. No family is perfect. But that's your family and you shouldn't let money get in the way of your relationships with them. I hope you regret how you handled it and won't make that mistake again. Comment. Yikes. I get why you did it, but that doesn't mean you're not an AH for it. Comment. You're 100% on the right. Parents should feel shitty. They made one child feel unwanted compared to the other. That's failing as a parent. And to double down after being called out multiple times makes them even worse. I live for petty, so while you could have told them you weren't going, I'll still say NTA. Comment. You're describing a lifetime pattern of being overlooked, passed over, and not valued. I don't see this changing. I'd strongly consider going low contact. Don't reach out. Don't feel obligated to spend holidays or birthdays with them. If they need help, they can ask their golden child or figure it out themselves. And if someday you're in an established well-paying job, maybe have some kids, and they complain at how you're never around, tell them green isn't their color. Update, 5 days later. Apologies in advance because this will be a long post. First off, hi everyone. Sorry for posting and then dropping off the face of the earth, haha. I wrote the original post at work during my break, and then as soon as the day ended, my boyfriend and I headed up to the cabins his family rented for the holidays. I wanted to be fully present with them, so I didn't actually have a chance to check this until today, and I can't believe how many people chimed in. I appreciate everyone who took the time to share their thoughts, even though I wasn't able to get through all of them. I tried reading some comments but got overwhelmed by the sheer amount there was and gave up after scrolling for 20 minutes. So, instead of responding to people individually, I will try to address some common things I saw in the comments. If there's anything I missed addressing, let me know and I will try my best to provide an answer. Skip ahead like 10 paragraphs if you want to get straight to the update. I am prone to yap a good bit. Obviously, I'll start with the 10K in back rent. To me, the number itself wasn't the issue. I mean, yeah, it is definitely a bit higher than I would have liked, but not completely unreasonable. For the amount of time I lived there, it's not like I would have been able to rent my own place at a cheaper price, and if I hadn't moved in with them I would have completely depleted my savings and probably gone into debt. While I was laid off and looking for a new job in my field, I had a serving job and did some freelance writing work as well, so I was contributing to groceries but not paying rent or utilities. Because of that, I understood why my parents wanted help once I was in a position to do so. I just wished they had defined that expectation from the beginning instead of springing it on me as a surprise. I paid it because I know it was an inconvenience for my parents to have me stay so long, especially during some home renovations, and it didn't feel worth the pushback if I refused. I know it would have turned into a whole big issue and it just felt easier to pay the money. Yes, I probably have some pushover tendencies that I need to address. Luckily, I'm in a well-paying field. I'm a technical writer, so once I got my new position, I was able to pay my parents back in about 6 months while also saving up to move out. The timeline for anyone curious is, I was laid off in January of last year. I used my savings to pay rent until my lease was up in June, and then I moved in with my parents. I lived with my parents from June of last year till September of this year, when I moved in with my boyfriend. I got my current job in May, which is when my parents told me that they wanted back rent and rent moving forward until I moved out. They said it was to help motivate me to get back on my feet. So not all of it was back rent technically, but I just used that term to try and be more concise. By the time I moved out, the total amount I owed had added up to 10K, and I had already paid off most of it. I also saw a couple comments about pursuing legal action against my parents, but I don't think that's worth it or even possible. We never had a written contract and I didn't argue against paying it. I didn't want them to be able to hold that over me. Going through any legal issue would just dredge the whole thing up again and I'd rather not do that. It's paid now, so at least it's over with. In the future, I know I should probably be less willing to give in to their demands. It's just difficult when things have been this way my whole life and my experiences have shown me that any refusal paints me as ungrateful in their eyes. I try so hard to be perfect because I just want them to treat me with the same care and support as they do with James. The worst part is, James and I were super close growing up. When we were kids, we hung out all the time. He was the one who taught me how to ride a bike. He stood up for me when I was getting bullied. I don't think he's a bad person at all, he just never learned to stand on his own 2 feet. Our relationship is strained now because he doesn't get why I have issues with our parents. I miss the brother I would stay up playing RuneScape with. I'm pretty sure he fully buys into the idea that he needs extra help since he's always gotten it. He doesn't know how to do or expect anything else. At least he's still nice to me, but he just refuses to see the differences in how we're treated and he basically wants me to just suck it up and be part of the family. Sadly, all his support just disappeared once it came to issues with our parents. I hope James gets some distance from them one day and we can reconnect. I don't want our relationship to keep suffering because of this. Sorry to get sappy for a second. But back to the comments, another thing I saw some people ask is why I didn't tell them sooner that I was canceling. I know that was a petty move on my part, but had I told them earlier, they would have spent those months trying to convince me to go and insulting me if I continued to refuse. It seemed like such a hassle and the way I did it was much easier. And yeah, maybe this is shitty of me, but I did get some satisfaction out of it. It felt good to treat them at the same level they treat me. Besides, it's not like it actually affected their trip. They still went just without me. Many of the comments brought up the idea of going low contact or no contact with my family, and it is something I've now been considering. My boyfriend is supportive of this decision since he has seen firsthand how my parents are. I'm sure my friends will be supportive as well if I explain the full story. Most of them have never met my parents and I've tried not to get into the whole family dynamic with my friends since it's depressing for me to talk about, and I also didn't want to come off as just whining all the time. Prior to this, they've only heard some small complaints here and there. With all that out of the way, here's what has happened since my last post. My boyfriend and I got to the cabin late Wednesday night. I gave his mother a bouquet of her favorite flowers and she loved them. We had a quick glass of wine while talking with his family before heading to bed. I was still a bit uncertain of my decision, so I probably wasn't as peppy as usual, but they didn't seem to mind. That night I made a promise to myself that I would put my own family issues aside during the trip and just focus on having a good time with my boyfriend's family who have always been so gracious to me. On Thursday, we woke up early and helped his mom with some preparation for the food and set the table. Afterwards, we played some cornhole with his cousins and sadly lost due to my complete lack of athletic ability. The Thanksgiving meal itself was delicious and his mom is such a good cook. Everyone was very sweet to me and made me feel so welcome as part of the family, which helped me feel much better about my decision to spend the holidays with them. Towards the end of the night, his mom even said to me that she knows it is ultimately up to my boyfriend, but she hopes I can join the family for real someday. I told her I would be honored if that happens and we hugged. I really do hope it will. I love my boyfriend so much, and I want to spend the rest of my life with him. His family is also an incredible bonus. I had such a wonderful time on Thanksgiving and enjoyed the rest of the weekend as well. We went on some great hikes, hung around by the bonfire, played board games, and watched movies. My boyfriend also spent some time looking after his little nephew, and watching them play with Legos together definitely gave me some slight baby fever, though that is not something I want to act on for at least a couple years. We got back yesterday afternoon and I am already missing everything. It was genuinely a blast and there was no family drama, which made my family seem like even more of a mess. I feel like I'm rambling a bit now, honestly, I probably have been the whole time, but I'm just so excited to share what a good time I had during the holiday and that I definitely made the right decision. Unfortunately, this update isn't entirely positive. I wish it could be. My parents reached out last night and they still weren't happy about my choice. I guess the sea air and unlimited drinks didn't do enough to relax them. My dad sent a passive-aggressive text of cruise pictures with a message that said, "Sad that you chose not to be with your family in such beautiful places," and I sent back a picture from my trip with my boyfriend's family and said, "Looks like you guys had a good time, so did we." Then my mom called and said she hoped I regretted missing out on a great family vacation and spoiling their memory due to a petty grudge against my brother. I told her my issue wasn't with James but rather their unfair preferential treatment between the two of us. My mom said that I was the one being unfair by comparing our situations since James needs help while he figures out his direction in life and I've always been much more independent. I told her the only reason that's true is because they never truly allowed me to depend on them. She said she wasn't going to apologize for raising a self-sufficient daughter, and that I should either grow up and be grateful for everything they've done or leave them alone for good and break their hearts all at once instead of doing it piece by piece. She called me cruel for dangling the hope of a wonderful holiday only to snatch it away at the last second. Even though they seemed to be just fine without me there based on the photos my dad sent and what they posted on social media, that I was really upset by this point and pointed out multiple examples of how they prioritized James, just hoping I could finally make her understand how growing up like this has affected me. My mom said I had a lot of nerve to put their parenting under a microscope when I have no children myself and have never had to make tough decisions. I had enough of the conversation and said I guess I'll just leave you guys alone like you want since I'll never be enough for this family anyway. I hung up and started crying, but my boyfriend was really supportive as always and we spent the rest of the night eating ice cream and watching The Hunger Games to cheer me up. I absolutely love the series and am so excited for Haymitch's movie to come out. It was weird to go back to work today after everything and act like nothing was the matter, but I think it was also a good distraction. Since I chose my boyfriend's holiday plans instead of my family's, I actually came back feeling mostly refreshed, besides the events of last night, instead of drained like I most likely would have been after the cruise. I haven't heard anything more from my parents yet, but I have a feeling they're just bluffing. I'm sure once they need something they'll reach out, or they'll probably try and smooth things over by Christmas so they don't have to explain the situation to our extended family. I haven't decided yet if I'll be open to reconciling. On one hand, I know I deserve better than to be treated as a burden and an afterthought while doing so much for them. I'm tired of trying to live up to their expectations and I'm not optimistic about their behavior ever changing. But on the other hand, they are my family and it's just so difficult to fully walk away. I just want to feel the love and acceptance from my own family that I get from my boyfriend's family. Why is it so hard for them to treat me like I matter? I'm also worried that if I don't make nice with them, they'll twist the story to make me seem like the problem and my extended family will be mad at me too. There are people I like within my family, but my parents have a lot of influence over everyone's opinions. I don't know if it's worth putting up with them to at least keep some ties to my family, or if it would be better to accept the loss and move on from a dynamic where I am clearly not appreciated. I want to keep my brother at least, but maybe I'm just holding on to the past and that version of James doesn't exist anymore. I hope that's not true. I just don't know how to get through to him since he is so brainwashed by my parents and thinks they can do no wrong. I'm not sure if I'll ever truly get my brother back. I've got some big things to think about now, and I don't know if I'm ready to make a major change to my life. I do believe I'd feel much freer and lighter if I at least distance myself from them, and maybe even cut contact entirely. I guess I'll just have to see what happens. I'm sure I already know the answer to this, but is it stupid to still hold out hope that things can work out?